Hello, my dear students. Welcome back to English Mastery Hub. I'm Adam, and I'm so happy to have you here with me today. I hope you're doing well and feeling excited to learn something new. It's always a pleasure to connect with you, and I truly appreciate you taking the time to join me. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever studied for hours only to forget everything the next day? It's a common experience for many of us. We spend so much time reading and reviewing, only to feel like we haven't made much progress. I know how frustrating that can be, and I've been there myself. But what if I told you that there are simple tricks that can help you remember things faster and for a longer time? Yes, you heard that right. There are proven techniques that can make your learning experience much more efficient. Whether you're studying for an exam, preparing for a presentation, or learning a new skill, these 5 powerful memory hacks will train your brain to retain information more effectively. And the best part? They're all backed by science, which means they really work. In today's episode, we're going to explore these memory techniques that will not only help you remember what you learn, but also improve your overall learning process. Make sure to listen until the end because the 5th hack is a game changer you don't want to miss. It's something that could really change the way you study and make a huge difference in how well you remember things. So, grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's dive in. You're going to love these tips, and I can't wait to hear about how they work for you. Let's get started. Many students think that reading their notes again and again helps them remember better. They believe that if they read something many times, they will not forget it. But this is not true. Reading passively is not the best way to learn. Your brain is lazy. If you do not make it work, it will forget information quickly. This is why many students struggle to remember what they read. The best way to remember things is to test yourself. This method is called active recall. It means you do not just read, you try to bring information from your memory. When you do this, your brain becomes stronger, just like a muscle. If you train your brain, it will remember better. How can you use active recall? It is very simple. After reading a chapter or a lesson, close your book. Try to remember everything you just learned. Write it down on paper or say it out loud. This will help your brain work harder. If you cannot remember something, do not worry. Open your book and check what you missed. Then, close your book again and try to recall the information once more. Another way to use active recall is by asking yourself questions. Instead of reading your notes, turn them into questions. For example, if you are learning about history, ask yourself, when did this event happen? Who was involved? Why was it important? Then, try to answer these questions without looking at your book. This method helps your brain remember the information better than just reading. You can also use flashcards. Write a question on one side of a small card and the answer on the other side. Look at the question and try to answer it. Then, flip the card and check if you were correct. Flashcards make learning fun and help you test yourself quickly. You can carry them with you and practice anytime, anywhere. Many students think that reading notes is enough, but research shows that active recall is one of the best ways to learn. When you test yourself, you make your memory stronger. If you only read, you will forget most of the information after a few days. But if you use active recall, you will remember for a long time. Think of your brain like a muscle. If you do not use your muscles, they become weak. If you want strong muscles, you need to exercise. The same is true for your brain. If you do not challenge your brain, it forgets information. But if you use active recall, your brain will become better at remembering things. Let me tell you a story about how I discovered active recall. When I was a student, I had a big problem. I studied for many hours, but I still forgot everything during exams. I felt frustrated and thought I was not smart enough. One day, I read about active recall. I decided to try it. After reading my notes, I closed my book and tried to remember everything. At first, it was very hard. I could only remember a little. But I did not give up. I kept practicing every day. After 1 week, I noticed something amazing. I could remember more information without looking at my notes. During my next exam, I felt more confident. I could answer many questions easily. This technique changed the way I studied forever. Now, I never just read my notes. I always test myself. I want you to try active recall today. Choose one subject or topic you are learning. Study it for a few minutes, then close your book and try to remember everything. Write down what you remember. Ask yourself questions. Use flashcards if you have them. You will see the difference. Your brain will remember better, and learning will become easier. You do not need to spend more time studying. You just need to study the right way. Many students do not know about active recall. They keep reading and rereading their notes, but they forget everything later. If you want to be different, start using active recall today. It is a simple technique, but it works. If you want to learn faster and remember more, do not just read. Test yourself. This method will help you in school, at work, and in everyday life. Try it today, and you will see how much better you can remember things. Many students try to learn everything the night before an exam. They stay up late, drink a lot of coffee, and read their notes many times. This is called cramming. It may help for one day, but after the test, they forget everything. Have you ever had this experience? You study hard, take the test, and the next day, you cannot remember anything. This happens because our brains forget new information very fast. If you do not review what you learn, your brain thinks it is not important and removes it. This is why cramming does not work in the long term. You need a better way to study. Spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is the opposite of cramming. Instead of trying to learn everything in one night, you study little by little over time. This way, your brain has time to store the information and keep it for a long time. How does spaced repetition work? It is very simple. You study something today, then review it after 1 day. Then you review it again after 3 days, then 1 week, then 2 weeks. Each time you review, your memory becomes stronger and lasts longer. Here is a simple way to use spaced repetition. 1. Study a topic today. Read your notes, watch a video, or listen to a lecture. Try to understand the main ideas. Second, review after 1 day. The next day, test yourself on what you learned. Try to remember as much as you can before looking at your notes. Third, review after 3 days. Go back to the same topic. This time, it will be easier to remember. Fourth, review after 1 week. By now, the information should stay in your memory longer. Fifth, review after 2 weeks or more. You do not need to review every day. After some time, reviewing once a month will be enough. The more you space out your reviews, the better you remember. If you only study something once, you forget most of it. But if you review at the right times, the information stays in your brain for a long time. Let me tell you a story about a student named Lisa. Lisa always crammed before exams. She studied for hours the night before the test. She remembered everything during the test, but after 1 week, she forgot everything. She felt frustrated. One day, her teacher told her about spaced repetition. Lisa decided to try it. Instead of studying everything at once, she made a plan. She reviewed her notes a little bit every few days. She used a notebook to write down the dates for her reviews. At first, it felt different, but after a few weeks, Lisa saw a big change. She started remembering things without much effort. During her exams, she felt less stressed because she already knew the material. She also had more free time because she didn't need to cram. Lisa learned that spaced repetition is the secret to remembering things easily. Now, she never crams before exams. She studies in small steps and remembers more with less effort. You can do the same. Try using spaced repetition for one subject. Start small. Write down your review dates or use an app like Anki or Quizlet. These apps help you schedule reviews automatically. They remind you when it's time to study, so you don't forget. At first, it may seem slow, but after a few weeks, you will notice a big improvement. Your memory will be stronger, and you won't feel stressed before exams. Most students don't use spaced repetition. They think reading notes again and again is enough. But if you want to remember more with less effort, spaced repetition is the best way. Try this method today and see the difference. Have you ever seen a memory champion on TV? They can remember long lists of numbers, names, and facts. It looks like magic, but it is not. They use a special trick called the Memory Palace. The Memory Palace is a fun and easy way to remember things. It helps you store information in your brain in a way that makes it easy to find later. Many memory champions use this trick to remember hundreds of things in order. But you do not have to be a champion to use it. Anyone can try it. Here's how it works. 1. Choose a place you know well. It can be your house, your school, your favorite cafe, or even your daily walk. The important thing is that you can see it clearly in your mind. 2. Think of the information you need to remember. This can be a list of new words, history dates, important facts, or math formulas. 3. Place each piece of information in a different location in your memory palace. For example, imagine you are walking through your house. If you want to remember 5 historical dates, you can put each date in a different room. 4. Use pictures to make it fun. Your brain remembers things better when they are funny, strange, or colorful. If you need to remember the year 1776, you can imagine a giant cake with candles that say 1776 sitting on your kitchen table. 5. Walk through your memory palace in your mind. When you need to remember the information, just imagine yourself walking through your house. The facts will come back easily. Let's try an example. Imagine you need to remember the planets in order: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Now, let's put them in your house. Mercury is a shiny silver coin on your front door. Venus is a beautiful golden flower on your table. Earth is a big blue globe on your couch. Mars is a red basketball in your kitchen. Jupiter is a huge balloon floating near the ceiling. Saturn is a ring-shaped donut on your desk. Uranus is a spinning top on the floor. Neptune is a blue fish swimming in your bathtub. Now, when you need to remember the planets, just walk through your house in your mind. The pictures will help you recall each planet in order. Let me tell you a story about James. James had a hard time remembering facts for his history test. He tried to read his book many times, but he always forgot important dates. Then his teacher told him about the memory palace. James decided to try it. He imagined his house and placed different dates in different rooms. For example, the year 1492, when Columbus discovered America, was a giant ship in his bathtub. The year 1969, when humans landed on the moon, was an astronaut standing in his bedroom. The next day, when James took the test, he felt confident. He closed his eyes, walked through his memory palace, and remembered all the dates easily. This trick works because your brain loves pictures and locations. It is easier to remember something when you see it in your mind. That's why we can remember places we visited many years ago, but we forget facts from a book we read last week. If you want to remember anything, try using a memory palace. You can use it for learning new words in English, remembering important dates for history, memorizing math formulas, preparing for a speech or presentation, learning new science terms. At first, it may feel strange, but after a few tries, it will become easy. The best part is that you can use this trick anywhere. You don't need books, flashcards, or a notebook. Your memory palace is always in your mind. You can also have more than one memory palace. For example, you can use your house for history facts, your school for science terms, and your favorite park for English vocabulary. The more you practice, the better your memory will become. Now, it's your turn. Think of something you want to remember. Choose a place. Make some fun pictures. And try walking through your memory palace. You will be surprised at how much you can remember. Give it a try today. It's like having a superpower for your brain. Did you know that your brain has a limit on how much it can remember at one time? Scientists say that most people can hold only about 7 pieces of information in their short-term memory. This is why long lists and big amounts of information can be difficult to remember. But don't worry, there is an easy trick that can help. It is called chunking. Chunking means breaking big information into smaller, meaningful groups. When you do this, your brain finds it much easier to store and recall information later. Let's look at some simple examples of how chunking works in daily life. 1. Phone numbers. Imagine you need to remember this number, 749-265-1834. It looks long and difficult, but if you break it into smaller chunks like 749-265-1834, it becomes much easier to remember. 2. History dates. Instead of memorizing random years, you can group events by decades or centuries. For example, if you are studying the 1900s, you can group events into early 1900s, mid-1900s, and late 1900s. 3. Shopping lists. If you need to buy 15 items from the store, don't try to memorize them all at once. Instead, group them into categories like fruits, apples, bananas, oranges, vegetables, carrots, spinach, potatoes, dairy, milk, cheese, butter, snacks, chips, cookies, chocolate. Instead of remembering 15 separate items, you only need to remember 4 groups. 4. Learning English words. If you are studying new vocabulary, don't learn words randomly. Group them into topics like food words, pizza, rice, soup, travel words, airport, hotel, ticket, school, words, teacher, classroom, homework. When you organize words into chunks, it becomes easier to remember them. Why does chunking work? Chunking works because it reduces mental effort. Your brain does not have to remember everything separately. Instead, It groups similar information together. This helps you store information in long-term memory and recall it faster. Let me tell you a short story about how chunking helped a student. Emma was a student who had trouble memorizing vocabulary for her English test. She tried to remember each word one by one, but after a few days, she forgot most of them. One day, her teacher told her about chunking. Emma decided to group the words into categories. She made a list. Food words: apple, bread, cheese, pasta. Travel words: airport, ticket, hotel, passport. Action words: run, jump, swim, dance. When Emma took her test, she imagined the groups in her mind. It was much easier to remember the words. She got a high score and felt proud of herself. How can you use chunking in daily life? 1. Studying for exams. Break big subjects into small topics and study them one by one. 2. Learning a new language. Group new words into categories instead of memorizing them one by one. 3. Remembering passwords. Instead of one long password, break it into smaller parts that make sense to you. 4. Listening to long speeches. Take notes by writing only the main ideas instead of every word. The next time you need to remember something, don't get overwhelmed. Break it into small chunks. Your brain will thank you. Try it with your next lesson or study session. You will see how easy and effective chunking can be. This is my favorite hack because it's the most powerful one. The best way to learn something is to teach it to someone else. When you explain a topic to another person, your brain has to reorganize the information, which helps you understand it better. You don't just memorize facts, you connect them in your mind. Teaching forces you to look at the material from a new angle. It helps you fill in any gaps you might have in your understanding. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have anyone to teach. Don't worry. There are many ways you can still use this method. Pretend you're teaching an invisible student in your room. Stand up and explain the topic out loud. Imagine there is someone who needs to learn it from you. This will make you organize your thoughts clearly. If speaking out loud is not an option, you can record yourself. Use your phone or computer to record your explanation. Then, listen to it later. This will help you hear the topic from a different perspective. This method works because it forces you to find gaps in your understanding and fix them. When you teach, you might notice parts of the topic that you don't fully understand. That's a good thing. It means you can focus on those areas and learn them better. When you teach, you also make the information stick in your memory. It's like repeating the material in a way that helps you understand it deeply, not just memorize it. Active learning is much more effective than just reading or listening. Here's an example to show how teaching helps. Let's say you are studying English grammar and learning about past tense verbs. You read a few rules and examples, but you don't feel confident in your understanding. If you explain the rules to someone else, you might realize that you don't remember one important rule. Maybe you forgot that some past tense verbs are irregular. This would be a gap in your knowledge. Teaching it to someone else helps you see that and work to fix it. After explaining it, you can go back and study that rule more carefully, and now you will understand it much better. The next time you need to use that rule, it will be easier to remember. The more you teach, the better you get at explaining things clearly. It helps you practice the topic and become more comfortable with it. Even if you don't have a real person to teach, Just the act of explaining out loud will make your brain work harder to remember and understand the topic. You can pretend that someone is there to listen, and you will learn much better than just studying alone. Sometimes, when we study, we just focus on reading or listening. But those are passive ways of learning. Teaching, on the other hand, is an active way to learn. You're involved in the learning process. It requires you to think, explain, and even correct yourself if you make mistakes. This is why teaching is one of the best ways to boost your memory. One more way to teach is by using simple examples. Let's say you're learning a new word in English. If you have to explain it to someone, you need to find simple examples to help them understand. By doing this, you'll remember the word much better. Let's take the word happiness. If you were explaining it, you might say, happiness is when you feel really good, like when you see a friend after a long time, or when you eat your favorite food. By explaining it to someone else, you use the word in different ways, and this helps you remember it better. This method works for any subject, whether it's math, science, history, or even a new language. Teaching what you learn is one of the most effective ways to remember the information. Even when you think you've learned something well, teaching it forces you to review the information. It's like a final test for your brain. You might find that you missed something, but that's okay. Once you discover what you need to review, you can go back and study it. After studying today, try this simple trick. Spend just 5 minutes teaching the topic you just learned. You don't need to make it perfect or give a long explanation. Just focus on the key points and explain them out loud. You'll be amazed at how much better you remember it. The more you teach, the better you will get at explaining things clearly, and the stronger your memory will become. Next time you learn something new, don't just read or listen. Try teaching it. Whether you have a person to teach or not, explaining out loud will make you understand the topic better and remember it longer. Try it today, and you'll see the difference in your learning. Now that you know these 5 powerful memory hacks, it's time to put them into action. Let's do a quick recap. 1. Active recall. Test yourself instead of just reading. 2. Spaced repetition. Review information at specific intervals. 3. Memory palace. Use visualization to store and recall facts. 4. Chunking. Group related information into smaller sections. 5. Teach what you learn. Explain the topic to strengthen your memory. Which of these hacks will you try first? Let me know. And if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to follow English Mastery Hub for more practical learning tips. Remember, learning isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode.